Hey everyone, you're listening to Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels while giggling, snorting, and having a ball. This week, we have a special guest episode. Jill Shalvis joined Erin to discuss her new novel, Wrapped Up in You, and recap the movie, The Holiday. All right, let's get right into it.
Okay, then I will do my best to not say something stupid or use the F word.
Oh, no, we use the F word a lot.
Good.
Don't worry.
I was so worried about that because I swear like a sailor, and I was like, how am I going to control myself?
I was a little worried too because we don't know you that well.
I
and
know.
so I'm like, oh gosh, I hope she's like good with our tone.
Oh yes, definitely.
Anyway, so hey Jill, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for coming on our show. And thanks for driving to Reno for it.
You know, it's funny. It turned out I didn't have to because
good.
You know, we live in the boondocks near Lake Tahoe on the California side, and when I say the boondocks, I mean the boondocks. Like, we don't always have internet, and we don't have anything fun like food delivery or, you know. And so when I woke up this morning and I did a test, I couldn't even get email. I thought, oh, crap.
So I've been there.
Yeah. So I drove to the coffee shop, and the coffee shop didn't have internet.
Oh, God.
I thought, shit, now I'm going to go all the way to Reno. But then we delayed a few hours so that I could figure my shit out, and the internet came back. So we're good.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you didn't have to drive somewhere far.
Yes, I was very relieved.
I'm in a similar situation because Alaskan internet runs out at the end of the month. So anytime we record at the end of the month, I'm in like jeopardy. So
yeah, I
completely understand.
Mm-hmm.
But we're here to talk about Christmas stuff.
Yes, we are. It's hard to believe because I still am mourning the loss of summer that ended this week. Drastically.
And we're a couple days before your release date of Wrapped Up in You.
Yes, although I did hear from readers today that they found it in the shelves. So it's out.
Oh, really?
There.
So it's out.
So in some places, whoever shelved early. So probably Barnes & Noble, a few Walmarts and Targets here and there. But yeah, officially it comes out on Tuesday.
How do you do on a release day? Like, do you get nervous?
Yes. What I do, it's so silly. I've written 105 books and I still get nervous.
Oh my God.
I know. So I try to just pretend it's not happening. And it's easy when I don't have internet. It's easy to pretend it's not happening.
Well, and probably easy when they start shelving it early anyway.
Yeah. So I just pretend, I go into the writer's cave, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed too. So this is a Christmas book.
It's Christmas light. I should say that. I don't like to tell readers what to feel. So I like to sometimes be, not everybody celebrates Christmas. So there are holiday decorations everywhere, and there are some elements of holiday, but like I said, it's Christmas light.
I find that there are a lot more Christmas books than other holidays. We went out to try to find a Hanukkah book one time, and it was really difficult to find non-Christmas holiday books.
Yes, so I try to write in that zone where it could be whatever you celebrate, this could be it.
Yeah, but I going through your back catalog, it seems like you write more holiday books than the average author.
I love that season, and like I said, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you're celebrating, I love the snow. I love the decorations. I love the sense of people are kinder or gentler, or supposed to be anyway. Put the illusion on, and I like that setting for a romance novel.
Well, the cover looks beautiful, and it looks like you're marrying two different series together in this one.
I have been writing The Heartbreaker Bay. This is book 8 in The Heartbreaker Bay. They're standalones. You do not have to read them in any specific order. Basically, it's like Friends meets Sex in the City. So it's a group of people who are tight, and they each get their own story, and it really can happen in any order. But for people who like to read it in order, you can go to my website and get the order. You do not have to have read the previous 7 to enjoy this book, because this really is more of a standalone than the other books are. And the reason for that is because I brought the hero over from another series I had written. It was the Animals series. It took place in Idaho around a bunch of sexy veterinarians. I mean, what's not to love about sexy guys?
I'm very familiar.
And cute animals, right? So Kel was this guy that was in the background of these stories, and I always intended to tell a story, and it just never happened. And it occurred to me much later why it never happened. Kel needed to leave Idaho. So I brought him to the city. So essentially this book is the cowboy does the city.
Okay, because I saw the snow on the front and I thought, okay, is this going to be in the Bay Area or is this going to be back up north? So this is in San Francisco.
Mostly set in San Francisco.
Okay.
Yes, but we wanted to give Kel his background so you could see it. You know, that's where he came from. Was the cover.
And then you, so we asked you what film or book you might want to talk about, and you said The Holiday, which is fitting.
I love holiday books, but this is a movie that, to me, reads like a romance novel.
It does. Which, by the way, you've got a Passion Flicks movie coming out, right?
It came out. It was.
It came out.
Yeah, it was actually not last Christmas, but the Christmas before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You can always still watch. You can still go watch it. It's The Trouble with Mistletoe. Christmas. No, I wish they had done Wrapped Up in You, because there's something about that book I meant to say when we were still talking about it. Sorry, that this book feels really special to me. I don't know what it is, but this was my favorite one of the series, and it might have been Kel, but it also might have been Ivy, the heroine. Raised herself essentially, and she's a taco truck chick. She owns and operates a taco truck. So there was so much fun for me doing the cowboy and the taco truck chick. But anyway, I digress. I just felt like that could have been a great movie. But Passion Flicks picked.
There's still time.
There is still time. I know. Like everybody write Passion Flicks, or any producer you know. But the book that they did the movie on was The Trouble with Mistletoe. And that came out the Christmas before last. And I loved that they did it. It was awesome. I didn't have anything to do with it because I was sick at the time, so I couldn't go to filming. But there's animals in that book. So I think they picked the hardest one to film, but I love that they did it.
See, okay, well, one of our listeners asked about it, and so I went out to go find it, and I could only find the trailer, so I guess I just made a bad assumption that it wasn't out yet, so I'll have to go back and find it.
You can get it at passionflix.com. You can sign up for a month and then cancel at any time. You can also rent or download it from Amazon, I believe. I guess we could have picked that movie, but it's too late. We picked The Holiday.
Well, you picked The Holiday, and what I was going to ask was, is this a movie that you'd seen and loved previously, or that you hadn't seen before?
I saw it when it first came out, and which was 2000 and something, early.
Yeah, it's been a while.
9. It's been a while, and I just loved it because, like I said, it kind of was inspiration for me for writing Christmas stories every year. It just was a great romance novel. And then I hadn't seen it since, but it kind of stuck in my head. And when my publicist from my publisher suggested that we do a movie together, and she asked what movie, that's just what popped in my head because we'd be talking about romance novels.
Yeah.
And then I recently
love
watched
this movie.
I'm so glad. I wasn't sure because some people don't love it. I loved it.
Well, what's funny is the last two authors we've had on were Talia Hibbert and Christina Ann Lauren, and both of them picked movies they hadn't seen and then hated the movie we talked about. So we're kind of due for one that we like.
Okay, good. Well, I just rewatched it to make sure that I remembered that it was as cute as I thought it was, and it was as cute as I thought it was.
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised.
Hey HBs! New York Times bestselling author Anna Zares has a new, super steamy contemporary out called Wall Street Titan. Here's a description. He's a billionaire who wants a perfect wife. At 35, Marcus Corelli has it all. Wealth, power, and the kind of looks that leave women breathless. The only thing missing? A wife who'd be as big of an achievement as the billions in his bank account. She's a cat lady who needs a date. 26-year-old bookstore clerk Emma Walsh has it on good authority that she's a cat lady. She doesn't necessarily agree with that assessment, but it's hard to argue with the facts. Raggedy clothes covered in cat hair? Check. Last professional haircut? Over a year ago. Oh, and 3 cats in a tiny Brooklyn studio? Yep, she's got those. And yes, fine. She hasn't had a date since, well, she can't recall. But that part is fixable. Isn't that what dating sites are for? A case of mistaken identity. One high-end matchmaker, one dating app, one mix-up that changes everything. Opposites may attract, but can it last? New York Times bestselling author Annika Martin says, Wall Street Titan is sexy, witty, and wildly entertaining. With chemistry you can feel down to your toes. You're going to love watching this dark, dominating hero fall for a cat-loving bookworm who wants nothing to do with him. We're including buy links in the show notes, So get thee a copy of this novel.
So we've got Cameron Diaz is Amanda, and her love interest is Jude Law, who is Graham.
Yep.
And then there's Kate Winslet, who is Iris, and Jack Black, who is Miles. I was talking with my podcast host about this last night, and she's like, I haven't seen it, and I don't want to see it because why did Kate Winslet get Jack Black and Cameron Diaz got Jude Law?
You know, I was really startled. I didn't like him going into this movie the first time I saw it. I didn't like him. And then I watched this movie and I kind of changed my mind about him a little bit because I thought he did a fine job. I do think it was a little bit a case of like, you know, a 5 and a 10, you know what I mean? Like, do 10s really date 5s? But I totally saw what she saw in him. I got it. She'd been burned by the hot guy, right? So she took a different direction. That's all.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. She dated this guy who she worked with.
Right? He was a dick. Jasper Bloom or something like that.
Yes, Jasper is definitely
Bloom.
his name.
I love right? That was such a great, first of all, the name with Jasper Bloom.
Yeah, Jasper is definitely like a sneaky, like slimy guy name, I think. Even though you see it a lot in romance heroes, Jasper pop up.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever see him as a hero, that name, now that I've seen this movie twice now.
Right. But he
was bad. Right?
Yeah.
He was bad for her.
And after he cheated on her or was dating her and somebody else at the same time, she like remained friends with him, and he was like continued to be in her life in a way that he was like stringing her along. Yes. Oh, it's awful.
I thought the worst part was in the very beginning, it's a Christmas party, at work Christmas party, and her boss calls her out and says, hey, I want you to cover this great story. And the story is of her ex becoming married to somebody else. And I thought that was the cruelest part, I think. Even more cruel. Because you expect Jasper to be an asshole. But the boss, like in front of all these people, lets her know this guy she's loved for 3 years is going to get married.
I think the boss knows the history, right?
Yes,
that's like
right?
the same boss she's talking to.
Yes.
Oh, God, it's awful.
So I actually hated him more than Jasper because, you know, you expect Jasper to be who he is.
Right.
And I think in the beginning you feel one of two ways for Iris. Like you're like, come on, he's an idiot, get past it. Or you've been there and you understand.
Right. And so Iris has this like big announcement, and she just goes back to her adorable cabin and just like wails and cries for like
oh my God. The
weeks.
picture of her, like in her, I always call clothes like this. She's wearing big sweats and a huge scarf and no makeup and a red nose because she's been sobbing loudly for 3 days and her dog's afraid of her now. And I always call those clothes birth control clothes because you know, you're obviously you're wearing like the worst clothes you have and
right.
Showered in 3 days. But the way she portrayed that sobbing as we see her walking back and forth to feed the dog was hysterical.
It was incredible. And her birth control clothes, well, first of all, she still looks like Kate Winslet no matter what she's wearing or doing. But then, like, whenever Cameron Diaz is in, like, sweats and a sweater, it's, like, the most pristine, like, she could go to, like, a fancy party. Oh, yeah.
Like, where did she get those cute sweaters? Man, those were great. They still work.
All the sweaters in this movie, all the scarves, all the coats are perfect.
Yes.
And so then we clip to Amanda, who's Cameron Diaz, and she's breaking up with her boyfriend who's also cheated on her, but it's like a whole different scenario where she's like, it's interesting because the boss in the scene previous was telling Kate Winslet, when your boyfriend cheats on you, you've got to yell and scream, and then you've got to kick him out. And then that's exactly what Amanda does in the next scene is like yell and scream and then kick him out.
What Iris did. But yes, I loved her character, Cameron Diaz. I love the way she handled the whole situation. And I actually almost for a minute, you almost feel sorry for her boyfriend because she's like this workaholic.
Yes.
Right? And she needed her life shaken up. And so
she says, who has time for sex?
Yes. I'm like, okay, well, now we know why he cheated on you.
Yeah.
Not that there's ever an excuse for that.
Right. But yeah, we learn that she's got these like panic attack kind of esophageal spasms and that she hasn't cried since she was 15.
So I thought that was really funny too. So she hasn't cried since she was 15. So that sets us up to know at some point. You know, she's gonna
exactly. Like that's like Chekhov's
also
not crying since you're 15.
Right. The other thing that made me roll my eyes was she promptly goes from dumping her boyfriend to going to Google and searching vacation house swap. And she manages to come up with like in one try with this gorgeous little Iris's cottage outside of London.
It's fate.
It was fate. estate.
What I like about that scene is they read out loud everything that's on the screen and everything that they're writing.
Yes,
So, like,
yes, clearly narration.
Yeah,
was
exactly.
happening there.
Like,
I'm telling you, this should have been a novel. This would have been a really funny, cute rom-com.
maybe it was. I don't know that it
I
didn't
don't know
come from a
either.
novel. All right, so they find this house swap. They both decide they need to like get away from where they are and go somewhere where there's no men and
Right,
there's
that was
no
funny.
heartbreak.
Yes, promising no men. And what happens the first night that Amanda's there, the hottest, cutest guy knocks on her door.
And he is like, I don't know if we're fast forwarding too much or not, but like that Jude Law that knocks on her door is the best Jude Law that there's ever been.
You know,
He's
it's funny
like-
because I wasn't a fan of him either. And then I watched
No,
this and
me
I fell
neither.
in love with him watching this movie. He was so cute and so, you know, he's not like the classic kind of romance alpha hero at all. He was almost the opposite of that, and it worked so well.
Yeah, but he's like he's like criminally hot. Like, and
Criminally
then there's
hot. Oh my gosh, the way he looks at her, every expression was on point.
Yeah, and I've never been into Jude Law before.
Me
but
neither.
man. And then there's a scene where he puts on glasses too, and it's just like, it's unfair.
I know. I watched this the other night to remind myself about this movie, and I told myself the next hero in my next book is going to wear glasses because he turned me on to glasses. I had forgotten all about how hot that he could look.
Yeah, God. Well, so she's like really bored. So she ends up at this cottage. She's got to walk a mile in her high heels in the snow and drag a suitcase because that's what happens when city girls go to the country is they have to drag a suitcase all the way down.
Of course.
I didn't understand. The cab driver says,
why couldn't he turn around? Because I can't drive you down there because I can't turn around.
Right.
And then, of course, in the end, he's driving her down. I get ahead of myself, but that was another thing.
At the end of the movie, he picks her up in front. It's the same cab driver.
Yep, it is. And why didn't she yell at him? I would have yelled at him. I would have been like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, exactly. And then at the same time, so Jude Law's whole reason, or Graham's whole reason for like knocking on her door in the middle of the night that night, is that he goes to the pub and gets drunk and doesn't want to drive home drunk. And it's like, did you walk 2 miles?
Well, no, it's like more than that.
Yeah,
right?
because we see her driving into town to go get like snacks and stuff, and it seems like a pretty substantial drive.
Yeah. So there's a couple of plot holes here and there. But
There's
you know,
some logistical errors.
We need to get him on the door. I did find it interesting because he comes in, he's drunk, and then she decides that she wants to have sex with the drunk guy.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Because first of all, like this is the rules all apply. One time thing, we don't know each other. I'm never going to see you again. I literally live on the other side of the planet. But usually in a romance novel, if the heroine has been drinking, the hero refuses to have sex because we're not going to take advantage of you, right? Which is legit. So I found it so amusing that, what a double standard. She took advantage of the drunk guy.
Oh, 100%. And it did seem like when he came in, like when he initially knocked on the door, he was like leaning on stuff.
Yep.
He was like leaning into her. He was like, I need to sit down or I'm going to fall over sort of thing. And then like the more romantic the scene got, like the more sobered up he seemed.
Right. And he got sobered up pretty quick.
And I think they had to do that or else it was going to seem like she was just like taking advantage of him. Yeah.
But let me just say, even drunk, he was very hot.
Oh, so hot.
Although he walked in, the whole reason he's knocking on the door is because he has to go to the bathroom. I don't think he washed his hands. I'm just saying, he went into the bathroom and he came out so fast. I was just like, don't touch her face. But he did.
Oh, he definitely touched her face.
Yes,
like I
did.
distinctly remember that part.
So there's certain things like I had to just put out of my head. And that was one of them.
Okay, so they have sex. It clips back, right? Yeah, so it clips back to Iris. She's in LA. She's having a great time. There's a pool. There's like, she's at a mansion. And
I loved this because she comes from, she's had such a rough time. She's on a mental breakdown. And the way she dances in joy through that house as she finds it for the first time was really cute.
The best part's when she finds the exercise room and she's like,
and
what's next? And she's like, oh no. Runs away.
We will not be seeing this room again for the rest of the movie.
Yep.
No exercise for me. I think my favorite part of that is she shortly there, I might be getting ahead of us. She shortly thereafter meets Arthur, the old guy. And I think he was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, so this is the part where Miles comes up in his car with his girlfriend and like needs something. Yeah. But she does spot Arthur, the old man, at the end of this scene with his walker and his nurse. And that's how she recognizes him later.
Yes.
But yeah, Miles pulls up. He's listening to some Ennio Morricone with his girlfriend. He's like, the flutes are the best part. Stop talking.
That's really of course sets us up to know that this is not serious relationship.
Right, exactly. And it's cute. He goes to get something because he worked with Amanda's ex. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Or he was friends with her. They worked together. So he was going to pick up the laptop of that.
Right. But Kate Winslet has something in her eye.
Gets to touch her face.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, there was some cute chemistry there between the two of them.
Yeah.
Even though neither of them are ready.
Right. Well, that's a much slower burn than the other side.
Yeah.
So then we clip back to Amanda, and it's like the morning after. She has apparently gotten up, showered, done her makeup. She's wearing like jewelry, like a lot of jewelry.
And again, a perfect sweater. But I think the timeline for that story drove me crazy because it was never accurate.
What do you mean? Because,
for instance, like when he says, how long have you been here? And she says, I've only been here 6 hours. But it was light outside when she made the 5-mile hike uphill in the snow both ways to the house. Then she was able to take a bath, and she drove to the store, got drunk at the store. If you remember, she was drinking.
Yes. And she drove home.
And she drove home. And so I think the timeline was a little messed up.
I never noticed that 6-hour line. No, you're like me. I'm very picky like that.
I'm like, okay. And I didn't notice anything the first time I was watching it was perfection. I just noticed it the other day when I was rewatching it.
Yeah. Yeah, so she can't get the coffee maker to work. It's just like a cute scene. And the best part about it is that Jude Law puts on his glasses.
Definitely. And my goodness, he looked hot even with a hangover. Like he was wearing jeans and that button-down white shirt. And he was scrumptious.
All that cottage has is a claw bathtub, like a clawfoot bathtub. There's no shower in that cottage. Like, how do they look so great?
I don't know. It was cute. And then the morning after awkwardness was kind of cute too. Like they had some sexy banner.
Because he does his like standard, hey, I'm not like a good guy to get caught up with. You wouldn't want this anyway. And she's like, I'm not going to fall in love with you. I'm leaving.
Right. And then his phone rings and it's a girl's name pops up on the phone.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're right. This is not going anywhere. Perfect. Little do we know why that girl was calling.
Yep. And then it's kind of like reverse psychology because she's like, nope, not going to like you. Not going to fall in love with you. And then he's like, wait a minute. So he says if she decides to stay in England, he's going to be having dinner with friends at the pub, which I was very like, which pub? What time?
Right. And what friends and how? Yes.
I need more details if I'm going to meet you at this pub.
Apparently she knew there was like one pub in all of England and she knew which one and what time. That's what caught me up. Like, you didn't say time. Are we going to meet at 5, 6, 7? I don't know.
I guess that makes sense why, like, fast forward when she's there, she's just sitting there with a glass of wine. She's probably been there an hour.
3 hours. Who knows?
All right. So it goes to Iris, and she gets a call from her shitty friend, ex Jasper, who's like...
She jumps all over it.
Oh, God. He's like, can I send you pages from my novel? And, okay, you're an author, so you know better. But, like, this was in 2009 or something like... would you send like 4 paper pages
overnight FedEx? No, I thought, don't we have internet?
That's crazy, right?
Right, but also being a novelist, I would never send 4 pages from the middle of my book out of context.
So weird.
I mean, has she been reading it all along? I needed more details.
I just thought that was so odd. And they were emailing each other earlier,
right? And they had instant messaging, so why not email it? That was clearly a plot device that I didn't understand until much later when he knocks at the door and shows up.
Oh, speaking of that email too, he calls LA Lotus Land. Is that a thing? I was going to ask you that because you're closer, in LA, approximately. Oh, you did?
I never heard of it.
Lotus Land.
Never heard of it.
Must be an English thing. We'll ask Talia.
Maybe.
Okay, so... Oh, this is where she finds Arthur, the old man, walking around and helps him get back to his house, which I read is Phyllis Diller's house, or was at the time that they filmed this. Yeah.
That's kind of cute.
That huge mansion.
Yeah, the old man was adorable.
Yeah, and he like talks about his time. They go out to dinner together, and he talks about like coming up in old Hollywood and being like Louis B. Mayer's like office boy. Like,
yeah,
really
it was
cute.
name dropping for sure, but I thought it was so cute. I mean, he started as like a mail delivery guy.
Yeah, and then he was like a big famous
and he had all these
writer.
awards. I don't know. I love that she was so charmed by him and so patient with him. I thought that was so sweet.
So then then Amanda does meet Graham at the pub.
Yes.
And then the morning after.
Yeah, and by the way, so this will be like the second time they kind of skipped over the actual love scene. We get it later in a flashback, a 2-second flashback.
Like barely.
Yeah, I'm like, so where's Jude Law without his shirt? That's all I'm asking.
Maybe Jude Law without his shirt. Maybe he wasn't doing great.
Maybe not. Maybe the right shirt. Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, it kind of sucked. But it was a really cute scene because she has no recollection of the night before.
Until he starts talking about it.
Right. And he's like, you begged me to stay. And she's like, oh, God.
And she finds her bra, so she's worried she did some sort of strip tease.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen that scene. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. It was kind of fun, them talking about it, though.
Yeah, it was
not really
cute.
knowing what happened. And she's like, did we, like, have sex? And he's like, call me old-fashioned. I don't have sex with unconscious people.
And she was so relieved. It was really cute. I thought all of that was very cute. Romance novel fodder like that.
Yes,
that was really cute.
And then they go to lunch and get to know each other.
And and again, he had to talk her into it because she was like this. I'm leaving. Yeah. I live on the other side of the world, and she still doesn't even know he has a secret, and she's still resisting. Although the date seemed funny to me. What was that big house, and why were they running through the bushes? Having some kiss game. I didn't understand any of that.
So they have lunch and she tells him all about her like parents' divorce and stuff. And it's, nice. But then afterwards there's this like montage of like.
It was a classic.
What was that?
I think that was just classic 2009 film montage telling. Like that's what you did.
It was like running through topiaries or something.
It was
very weird.
It was very strange.
In a coat that would never keep anyone warm.
No. But again, cute.
Yeah, very cute coat. Had like little tufts of fur on the...
It was cute. And as were all her very thin sweaters.
Yes. And this is where she reveals to him that she hasn't cried since she was 15. So like we know that this is definitely going to be a thing.
Also what was cute is he revealed the opposite. Like he said he weeps all the time. And I thought that was like, okay, sure,
big
buddy.
weeper.
But of course, we also see that later, which was also adorable.
Yeah. And then when we go back to Iris, she's having a Hanukkah party with all her new old man friends.
I know, that was so cute. God, I loved her.
it.
Yes, and then Jack, of course,
shows
crashes
up.
the party.
Yeah, and he's like real charismatic, and he's gonna play pinochle with one of them, and like, yeah, he's the best.
And is that when we see he has to leave for his ex? What happens there?
No, when he's leaving that night, this is the one where he like kisses her twice and lingers on the second one.
So he gives her a kiss on the cheek. He lingers over the second one. He goes, "Wow, that was weird." And then they kind of have a laugh about it.
Yeah, it's great. He's like a little drunk, maybe. I think I don't know. It's really funny.
It was cute and awkward, which I thought was cute.
Okay, so this is
because I don't think we would believe him if he was suave.
No, it has to be like awkward. And I thought that Kate Winslet did such a good job being also like a little bit awkward and unsure of herself, because it's hard when you're like one of the most beautiful women in the world for me to believe.
Absolutely. They did a good job of dumbing that down a little bit, and I thought it was her character. She played it so well because she also is very awkward. And also we're seeing a growth here already from her, whereas she'd been a doormat in England. Right. And here she is having parties and taking charge, and it was cute.
And it's partly her old man friend who's like, you need to be the leading lady of your life. You need to have gumption and all that stuff. She's like, cute. I've been in therapy for a year and no one has said anything that good to me.
So it's fun to see her actually believing that she's the leading lady.
And then the next scene is where Amanda surprises Graham at his house. Oh, because earlier in the day she didn't invite him in.
Yeah, so that the fantastic lunch with the great kind of bullshit
Topiaries.
jacket. Yeah. And then in the car, when she says, I've never cried, and he wants to come in after lunch, he wants to walk her to the door, and she knows that that's like AKA let's go have sex, and she doesn't let him in. She says she's tired, and we know now she's trying to distance herself, and then she feels guilty and she's bad because she's like, why not? We're adults. Why not go have fun? And she shows up at his door. This is another time problem because it's is it Christmas Eve yet? I mean, they keep talking about Christmas Eve, and yet. So anyways, she shows up at his door and realizes that he's not alone.
Right.
And not only
there's like music playing in the background.
And his shirt's askance. So like, was he? So she's like, oh my God, you're not alone. She assumed, of course, naturally, that he had another woman in there.
But he has two other women and they're adorable.
Tiny, adorable little girls. Yeah, it was so cute.
These little girls are like
precious. The
most adorable kids ever in a movie, I think.
Yeah. Sometimes when kids show up in a movie, it's annoying. But these kids were not. They moved the plot forward. It was awesome.
Well, famously, like, I am very, like, staunch about I do not want kids in my romance novels.
I'm with you. I get that.
So, I hate it when a kid shows up. I always skim past, even if it's a good book. I'm like, ugh, the kid stuff.
The kids.
But these kids are so cute.
They're just precious, and they give us so much more of him than we'd had. That's why it works, because they're a plot device. They're revealing his character.
Yeah.
And then
we find out that he's a
widower. Yeah. Oh, and I loved that. And she's like, but behind the kid's back, are you divorced? She's all mad. Like, are you still married? Are you divorced?
I think she's worried there's a wife in there.
Right. She's upset. And he spells out that he's a widower so the kids can't hear it. I thought, oh my God. Yeah.
And so she comes in.
Yeah.
He said they ask if the gifts are for them, and she's got like wine and like olives and like weird hors d'oeuvres.
Well, at least she didn't have a sex toy in there.
Oh God,
it could have been so much worse.
That's true. And she is wearing the coat with, I don't know if you noticed this, like at least 30 buttons, like more buttons than a coat has ever had in the history of time. It's like a million small buttons. Go back and look at it.
I will. Because
if you had this coat,
takes the coat.
Yeah, you would never button this coat. Like, you would get it, you would be like, that's cute, and then you'd never, ever button it.
Listen, I need a zipper. I need to get in and out.
Me too, yeah.
So they go in, and then they have this lovely family moment, and you can see that the girls are literally starved for female attention, because he's never, and that's another thing, he's never had another woman there, so that was really sweet.
It's great, and like, he asks if she's into hot chocolate, and she's like, yeah, I'm into hot chocolate. Like, it's so cute. He does this, like, Mr. Napkin Head thing that's very cute. Yes. They go and they lay in a tent in their room.
It's all charming until she's in his office, and he comes in, and they have the talk like this.
Yeah.
Cannot go anywhere. I cannot move to LA, and she, there's no way she's going to give up her life, and you really believe it. Like, they're at a passroads here.
Well, and also, like, why didn't you tell me that you had like, he went to lunch to get to know each other, and she kind of reluctantly agreed to that, and she spilled out all her stuff about her childhood and stuff, and he didn't tell her the most biggest thing in his life.
I think he explains that pretty well in that scene, and she even says she's reluctantly looking at him, he's telling her why, and at the end she goes, okay, I really think I can understand that. Like, she bought it, and so did I.
And he says, I love this line where he says, I'm just so scared of what another person might do to what we are.
Yes, and I thought that was such a cool character thing to reveal about him.
Yeah.
That he's that into this family unit, and he's that into being a dad that he doesn't want to do anything to jeopardize that.
Yeah. And then next we get the cute video store scene with...
Yeah, so we leave them, and we'd assume that they're going to go away and never see each other again. Then we cut over to Iris, who's in the video store. And in that store, Jack says it's Christmas Eve. Yes. So what I want to know is, what's Dustin Hoffman doing in that blockbuster on Christmas Eve?
Well, I actually read, so I was on the IMDb to see who Cameron Diaz's boyfriend was, because he looked familiar, but he's like not famous. But anyway, so I was on the IMDb, and so I looked at the trivia. Dustin Hoffman was just driving past that video store and saw that a movie was filming.
That's
and
funny.
Was like, hey, I was going to go to this video store. Do you want a cameo in your movie? I'm Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah. Oh, yes, please, Dustin Hoffman.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. Who's going to say no to him?
Yeah.
It was cute. That whole scene was cute. them bonding, so you can start to see a true
Yeah.
attraction growing there.
And he's really funny. He makes her laugh. It's great.
Yet they're both aware that he is still attached to somebody else.
Well,
Very
briefly, because then he
briefly.
looks out the Blockbuster video
Right
window,
there. Yep.
and guess
there she
who's smooching up on some guy?
Yeah.
Is Maggie, his girlfriend. Ugh, it's
Yeah.
the worst.
Yeah, that was the worst. And she looked so familiar to me. I needed to look her up and see.
That is Shannon Sussman. She is from A Knight's Tale.
That's where it is. Thank you for solving that. And now I don't have to look it up.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
She's been in other things, but you're another romance person, so I think that's probably it. Yeah, so then after that, it's kind of like, let's see.
Don't they have
like
lunch right after that? Or is...
Yeah, I think so. Oh, no, the next one with the two of them is he writes the songs.
For the
right.
Award ceremony for the old guy, which is so
the old guy
cute.
has this
they want to honor him for a
lifetime
career
achievement. Yeah. And so he writes a little song for him because the old guy is trying to, like, we just keep calling him the old guy.
I know, it's Arthur. It's Arthur.
Yeah, Arthur. He's trying to walk on his own onto the stage. And so he writes a song for him that will make him motivated. And then he writes a song for her.
Yes. And he says, I saved all the good notes.
Yeah.
I only used the good notes.
Oh,
there were some really cute quotes.
Yeah.
Really cute quotes. And one that we missed, not yet. Not yet, because Graham hasn't come back. Or because Dickhead, what's his name, hasn't come back yet.
No. And then I don't know if it was before the music scene or not, but they like commiserate about Cheater. Like she's like, yes. I know how you feel. And that's when they have Christmas Eve fettuccine. Yes.
And that was
at least in the Kate Winslet storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very cute. They like bonded.
They did bond. And then is the next scene where they're at lunch?
The next scene with them is when they're at lunch at sushi.
Yeah, so I have to say
there's the boob grace.
Yes, the boob grace, which was hysterical. But I also have to say, if the night before was Christmas Eve, this is now Christmas Day. So what are they doing? Eating sushi on Christmas Day in a crowded restaurant. And he gets a call, and his ex says, I need you, I miss you. And he gets up and he leaves her. And I understand, like, that's a character turning point for him that had to happen. Uh-huh. But I felt so bad for her because she's on Christmas Day, and now even her friend isn't there. I'm
going to posit that maybe the sushi restaurant was the only place open on Christmas Day. Go. And that's why it's so crowded.
Yeah, let's go with that. I think that idea.
One time, my husband and I both had to work on Christmas Day, and we honestly just like forgot everything would be closed and we had no food. And we went out and got Chinese food, and that was the only thing open. So it's possible maybe a Japanese restaurant would be open.
Thank you for solving that for me. That was bothering me. I'm happy to know.
I love this. We have a segment on the show called Logistics with Aaron, and it's this couldn't happen in real life.
I have to do that with you sometime? That would be fun. Because I have a lot of those.
Yeah, it seems like you read books how I read books or watch movies. So the next Amanda and Graham scene is like the pillow talk one, which again, we missed the sex.
I know. And we did get a very brief flashback, I think.
Yeah, they did one of those like trailers.
Yeah, but
they do.
Yes, and that was funny. But like it was like a 2-second thing, and it was not nearly enough. But
it's just faces smooching too. It's also, not like
if this is not Christmas Day, why is he not with his kids? But I'm gonna have to let that go.
I don't know that it's Christmas. Maybe they fast forward a little bit.
Maybe it's after Christmas. Okay,
maybe
let's go for that.
So I hope so.
So they're having some pillow talk, and then he's like, "Look, this, we don't live on different planets. There are planes. Like we could actually visit each other." And he's kind of cute there, trying to let her know that they could make this work if they wanted to.
This is a great speech. He does a great I love you speech. I mean, it's convincing.
It is. And it's so sweet. And he does. He says, I love you. And it's been like a week, but that's okay.
Okay. I believe it's a romance. Mm-hmm. Me too. I believed it too. And then she goes, I don't know what to say. And he's like, well, if the obvious response doesn't immediately come to you,
yes. I think we both know what you, I love that. Yeah, and that was tough for him, and we could see it on his face. And then she gets up and leaves. Mm-hmm. That's hard. That's hard. Meanwhile, then we cut back over to Iris.
She's going.
The last time she's seen Jack was like he deserted her at the sushi thing.
Yeah, and he's like talking it over with Maggie, the shitty girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we didn't even say, she cheated on him by saying that she was like on set in like New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And like she was lying on several levels
Yes.
of like, she said she wasn't even in town and she was in Los Angeles, like
But
sleeping
the
with some
funny
other
thing
guy.
is when we're watching her talk to him, you cannot tell by the look on his face which way he's leaning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't tell, was he going to believe her and go back to her? I mean, it
Oh, I
kind of
know.
led us to believe that that's what was going to happen. And so then the next scene where it's at this awards ceremony and Iris and Arthur walk in together, and then he shows up.
Oh, can I say first that Arthur gets Iris a corsage
Oh my God,
because
it
he's her
was so
date?
precious.
Oh, I loved it.
I loved everything about that. Then when he was like, they're walking in, he thinks no one's there because you walk into the theater and the lobby's empty. And he's a little nervous because nobody showed up to this thing. Then they open the double doors and the theater is filled.
And
they're
the
all there
look
for
on
him.
his face
I know.
is
Oh my God.
just...
I actually teared up. I teared up for the second time at that part.
God, it's so good. Well,
And then he hops
anytime
up
there's a
those
sad old
stairs.
man, it
Yes.
just like gets me. I don't know why a sad old man
Me
is like the
too.
thing.
It's just so, it was precious. And then he hopped up those steps because they'd been practicing.
And it's playing his song that Jack Black
Yes.
wrote when he hops up the steps.
Right. And then Jack, he sits next to Iris and they smile
runs
at
in.
each other. He runs in and so then you know they're going to be okay because of the way they look at each other.
And he says, "What are you doing New Year's Eve?" And she's like, "I'll be back in England New Year's Eve." And he goes, "I've never been to England. If I go over there, will you go out with me on New Year's Eve?"
Yeah, that was so sweet. And you actually think that's the end of their story.
I think it is too. I think they smooch like a little peck smooch, but that's really all we get with them.
That's all we get with them. But that's all we needed because, like you said before, that was a slow burn.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then we switch over back to Amanda, and she is driving away with the guy who actually could make it all the way up to that stupid cottage. Right?
And there's no more snow or less snow. It is the same driving
snow.
conditions.
And she makes him go back. And one of my favorite parts of this whole movie is when she walks in and Jude Law is sobbing. He's doing exactly as he said. He was weeping.
He's a big weeper.
Oh my God. It should be silly and it shouldn't have worked, but it totally worked for me.
Mm-hmm. And then they're there New Year's Eve doing a conga line all together.
Yes.
And you kind of forget, you have to like do math in your head because you see Iris like picking up Jude Law's kids and like smooching them and stuff. And then you're like, oh yeah, because she's their aunt because you've never seen these characters together.
Which is exactly what I was like, oh my God, that's why she knows them so well. And so I said the exact same thing as you. I'd forgotten the connection.
Right.
And that she's actually related because I'd been so worried about these little girls who had no female influence on life. Turned out they do.
They did. But they like specifically the one girl was like, you know, really interested in her makeup and her perfume and her fancy clothes and stuff. And,
as you would be at that age if you didn't have a mom.
Yeah. And I think that Iris is like a little bit less interested in those things.
For sure. Because I don't think she had makeup on the whole movie, but I loved it.
Oh, God, but she looks so good.
She's amazing.
I made the note, like, I know it's not cold in this, like, England town because of, like, how luminous everyone is. Like, it can't actually be cold or their skin would be...
There's no bright red cheeks. I live in the Sierra Mountains. And where do you live?
Alaska. I'm in
Anchorage. So you know, too. Like, that that part was a little bullshit.
Yeah.
But I got such a happy sigh at the end. I cried again.
Yeah. It's a great movie.
It totally worked for me.
I'm so disappointed in Melody, my co-host, that she hasn't seen it just because
she should have
on
to watch
principle.
It for homework, and then she should have to tell us what she thinks.
Yes, absolutely.
But I always wonder, too, does it hold up if you've never seen it before? Because sometimes, and this happens when I'm reading romances, too, if I'm reading an older romance that's a favorite, if it wasn't a favorite, would it still hold up? And sometimes the answer, unfortunately, is no. So I'll be waiting to hear what she thinks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the holiday. Is there anything else you want to say about your new release? And I should have said at the beginning, I was at KissCon and my bag came with an arc of the Lemon Sisters, and I truly enjoyed that book over the summer.
Oh, you read that one? Because I was laughing when you said you don't like to read books with kids, because I thought to myself, I hope she never reads the Lemon Sisters.
Listen.
Because there are little kids in that one.
There's
and I don't
a certain amount of like skimming that I do when there's a kid involved. But yeah, well, I've liked a lot of books that have kids in them. I just don't really like the kid parts that much. Like The Governor's Game, I really liked by Tessa Dare.
Yes,
and that's very kid centric as well. But the book's really good. So I just wanted to tell you, I really enjoyed that arc.
You're safe with almost all of the rest of my books. I really enjoyed that.
It's good to know. Would you mind sticking around for like 10 minutes to do a couple questions for our Patreon listeners?
No problem.
All right. Okay, so we'll sign off here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.